Imagine, like, sitting in absolute, unbroken silence for literally 18 hours a day.
Just reading that made my back hurt, honestly.
Right. I mean, just pushing your mind and your biology to the absolute frayed edge. And then after all that, you suddenly start hearing a stand-up comedy routine being performed right next to you.
By an invisible entity from a parallel universe, no less.
Exactly. It sounds like the setup to a joke or, maybe a symptom of a total psychological break.
Oh, absolutely.
But today, we are exploring the terrifying, hilarious, and just biologically fascinating reality of a man who experienced exactly that.
It's just a remarkable journey into the absolute outer limits of human perception. I mean, we are venturing into completely uncharted sensory territory today.
Welcome to the deep dive. So our mission today is to explore this bizarre and deeply profound intersection of extreme meditation, clairaudience, which is essentially hearing the unseen, and how the literal loss of one physical sense can actually amplify a person's perception to a level that, frankly, sounds superhuman.
And to do that, we're looking through a completely unique lens. We're analyzing the teachings and the life experience of Osman, who is widely known as the Blind Muslim Yogi.
Right. And before we get into the truly mind-bending stuff, because trust me, for you listening, we are going to get into some really wild territory today, we need to establish exactly who Osman is.
Yeah, his credentials are key here.
Because according to our sources, Osman is a master-level telepathic bioenergy healer. He specializes in critical care recovery and terminal illnesses, and he utilizes what he describes as principles of quantum physics and entanglement.
Which is a massive claim right out of the gate.
Huge.
Yeah.
But he's got the background for it. He has practiced healing, yoga, and meditation at an advanced level for 50 years. 50 years.
That is a lifetime of rigorous practice.
Yeah, and he attained his first experience as samadhi, which we'll define later. But it's a profound ultimate state of meditative consciousness by the age of 19.
By 19, I mean, I was barely figuring out how to do laundry at 19.
Right? Same. But what stands out in his background is his approach. He makes a point of emphasizing a highly scientific approach to life.
Yeah, he is actively trying to strip away all that dogmatic, mystical fluff. He wants to simplify these ancient yoga and meditation sciences into, like, actionable, repeatable methodologies.
Now, a crucial disclaimer right at the top, which he insists on. Osman emphasizes that his services are strictly complementary to enhanced medical care.
That's a really important boundary.
Very important. They are not a replacement for it. He is very clear. These are all natural therapies. If you are dealing with a medical condition, you absolutely must consult a licensed medical practitioner.
Right, he's not telling you to throw away your medication.
Exactly. And he actually has a website, yogawellness786.com, where you can download a free 5-minute yoga and meditation program. Just grab that free 5-minute program on his site. It's front and center and totally free.
And he offers a lot of his teachings entirely for free on his YouTube channel too, right?
Yeah, and on Apple and Spotify podcasts under the Blind Muslim Yogi.
He does have a Patreon for one-on-one consultations, live sessions, and his premium energy healing services. But I like that he is very adamant about not withholding the core information.
The methodology is just out there.
Yeah, it's free.
Okay, so this is where I need to pause and just be the skeptic for a second.
Go for it.
Because the claims in our sources are massive. He talks about having a 90% success rate with his bioenergy healing.
Yeah, that number jumps out at you.
It does. And he states that this isn't magic, but rather that if anyone follows his protocol, their natural energy improves, boosting their immunity by 90% naturally.
Yeah.
I have to be honest, my scam radar goes absolutely crazy when I hear numbers like that applied to severe ailments.
It's entirely fair to be skeptical. And frankly, you should be when navigating these kinds of claims on the internet.
So how does he justify that without sounding like a charlatan?
Well, let's break down exactly what his argument is. He isn't saying he waves a magic wand and a terminal illness vanishes in a puff of smoke. He is presenting a specific energetic hypothesis about modern disease. He argues that cancer and severe ailments are often the direct result of modern lifestyles that completely deplete our natural human energies.
Like stress, poor environment, terrible diets.
All of it. Sensory overload, screen time, trauma.
So he's basically saying the modern world drains our battery to zero, leaving us completely defenseless.
Precisely. And his protocols, which are rooted in this natural spirituality and yoga, are designed entirely to replenish that lost energy.
Okay, I see.
So the claim of a 90% boost to natural immunity is based on his premise that people are currently operating at a massive energy deficit.
Oh, that makes sense. Like if
Like-
you are running on 10% battery and you
Sure.
finally plug the device back into a proper power source.
The performance jump is going to seem miraculous, but it's really just a return to your natural, optimal baseline.
And what about his role as a healer in all this?
Well, he claims that his decades of proficiency allow him to manipulate and transfer his own cultivated energy to those in need.
Almost acting as a sort of jumper cable for a depleted system.
That's a great way to put it, but the ultimate goal is always for the individual's own immunity to take over.
All right, I appreciate that distinction. It's about restoring a baseline
Yeah.
rather than casting a spell.
Exactly.
But let's dive into the mechanics of this, because right out of the gate in his teachings, we are dealing with concepts like reading minds.
Which is usually where people check out.
Totally. But Osman talks about this in a very grounded way. He mentions people like so-called witches or gypsies, people you meet who just instantly seem to know your life story or your deepest secrets.
Right, the classic psychic trope.
Yeah. We see that in a movie or read about it, and we just assume it's a supernatural gift bestowed upon a chosen few. But Osman says, no, it's actually just the result of a highly practiced capacity to read thoughts.
And it is rooted entirely in the art of the silent mind.
Yes. This is one of the most practical, fascinating aspects of his teaching because it completely demystifies the idea of psychic powers.
It really does. The mechanism he describes doesn't require a crystal ball. It requires extreme self-regulation.
Which is way harder than buying a crystal ball.
Oh, way harder. He explains that to read another person's thoughts, the absolute prerequisite is that you first have to completely clear your own mind.
Which is basically impossible for most of us.
Exactly. We're constantly narrating our lives. But he says that when your mind is completely still, when it stops jumping around, and you focus intensely on another person, you can actually catch thoughts that enter your mind.
And here is the key, right? The only way you know those thoughts belong to the other person is because your own mental baseline is absolute silence.
You know it's not yours.
Right. If a thought pops up and you know you didn't generate it, it has to be coming from the person you're focusing on.
That is the core logic.
Now, I was trying to figure out how to visualize this for you listening, and I came up with this analogy. Imagine you were sitting in a ridiculously crowded, noisy restaurant.
Okay, I'm there.
Music is blaring, plates are crashing, people are shouting. Now, if you are sitting there screaming at the top of your lungs, which is essentially what our own anxious thoughts are doing in our heads all day long, just jumping around and shouting about our grocery list or our email.
Yeah, the endless to-do list.
Right. If you're screaming, you can't even hear the person sitting directly across from you. You are producing so much noise, you are entirely deaf to the environment.
Right. You are a transmitter stuck on maximum volume.
Exactly. But if you somehow manage to sit in that crowded restaurant in absolute pin-drop silence, if you stop producing any sound at all, suddenly the dynamics change.
You start picking up the background noise.
Yes. You can tune into the whispers at the table next to you. You can hear a hushed conversation happening across the room. You become a perfect receiver because you've completely shut down your own transmission.
I think that analogy perfectly captures the mechanics of what he is describing. And if we look at the psychological reality of this, it is incredibly daunting.
It is.
Because true empathy, true perception of another human being, it begins with our own stillness. But modern humans have almost no idea what their own baseline thoughts actually look like, let alone what mental silence feels like.
We live in a state of perpetual cognitive motion.
We really do.
I mean, we wake up, look at our phones, listen to a podcast on the commute, work on a screen, watch a show while scrolling on another screen, and then just crash and go to sleep. There's zero silence.
None at all. The monkey mind, as it's often called in Eastern philosophies, is constantly swinging from branch to branch.
It's just nonstop.
To achieve the silence Osman is talking about, you have to observe the monkey until it gets exhausted and finally sits still. And that is a grueling process.
Grueling is definitely the right word, because achieving that silence isn't just taking a nice 10-minute nap or doing a quick mindfulness app session on your lunch break.
No, not at all.
It requires intense, unrelenting practice. And that brings us to the extremes of Osman's personal journey. Because to get to that level of silence, to achieve samadhi by the age of 19, he put his mind and body through a regimen that is almost impossible to comprehend.
He describes his early days, noting that he lacked a teacher to guide him safely. Because he was so driven, he was meditating for 16 to 18 hours a day.
18 hours a day. Let's just pause on that.
It's insane.
I mean, sleeping maybe 4 or 5 hours, eating for an hour, and spending literally every other waking moment in deep, focused meditation.
The physiological and psychological endurance required for that is staggering. We are talking about severe sensory deprivation, massive metabolic shifts, and a complete rewiring of neural pathways at a breakneck speed.
And it worked, in a sense. I mean, he attained samadhi multiple times. But let's actually define that for the listener, because it's a term thrown around in yoga classes a lot, but we need to understand what it actually means in the advanced context.
Sure. So in classical yoga philosophy, samadhi is the 8th and final limb of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. It is described as a state of profound, ultimate meditative consciousness. It is not just feeling relaxed or having a clear head after a good stretch.
Right, it's not a spa day.
No, it is the total dissolution of the ego. The boundary between the observer, the process of observing, and the object being observed completely collapses.
Oh.
You are no longer Osman experiencing the universe. The distinction between Osman and the universe vanishes entirely.
Which sounds incredibly beautiful and poetic.
Oh,
but
yeah.
physically, it was completely overwhelming.
Oh, yeah.
Osman says he physically couldn't withstand the immense power surging through his body during these states. He literally had to stop because it was too much. The sheer energetic load was tearing him apart.
And this is where the biology of extreme meditation becomes critical to understand. The nervous system is a physical structure, right?
Right.
It has a specific capacity for electrical and bioenergetic voltage. When someone forcefully alters their consciousness to that degree, the brain is flooded with gamma and theta waves, the heart rate variability shifts radically, and the endocrine system is pumping out entirely different neurochemicals.
It's like taking a standard kitchen toaster, which is built for, 120 volts,
Sure.
and plugging it directly into a high-voltage industrial power line. You aren't going to get better toast. You are going to instantly fry the machine.
That is exactly what happens. It's spiritual burnout, but with very real, terrifying physical symptoms. The nervous system just fries.
And because of that terrifying experience, Osman now strictly advises his students against doing what he did.
Which is very responsible of him.
He tells people, do not do this. He teaches that only 20 to 30 minutes a day of meditation is necessary to achieve the desired benefits safely.
And I really appreciate this pivot in his teaching because it directly challenges the romanticization of extreme spiritual practices that we see so often today.
Oh, totally. We have this inherent bias in our culture that assumes more is always better.
Always.
If drinking 1 glass of water is good, drinking 2 gallons must be amazing. If a 20-minute meditation makes you feel focused, then an 18-hour meditation must turn you into a literal god. We treat spirituality like an extreme sport.
We do, and it completely ignores the fact that integration takes time. If you rip open the doors of perception, your physical brain and your emotional self need time to process what just came through the door.
Right. You have to digest it.
Exactly. By dialing it back to 20 or 30 minutes a day, Osman is advocating for sustainable growth. He is allowing the nervous system to adapt to the bioenergetic voltage slowly, rather than being overwhelmed by it.
But the reality is, Osman did do the 18 hours.
Yeah.
He pushed himself to that absolute frayed edge. And because he did, a door blew wide open.
It certainly did.
And here is where the story takes a turn that is honestly so bizarre it completely caught me off guard.
It is definitely not what you expect when you hear about a profound spiritual awakening.
Not at all. You'd think that pushing your mind to the absolute limit would result in seeing glowing angels or having some solemn, earth-shattering dialogue with the cosmos.
Right, the standard mystical tropes, burning bushes and choirs of ethereal voices.
Exactly. But for Osman, his intense practice suddenly triggered clairaudience.
Which is hearing things outside the normal range of physical hearing.
Right. He started hearing entities from parallel universes.
Which in itself is a massive perceptual shift.
It is. But here is the kicker. When these entities realized he could hear them, they didn't deliver ancient prophecies or tell him the meaning of life.
No.
They crowded around him and started cracking jokes.
They literally formed a cosmic comedy club. I love this detail so much.
He explicitly says they were funnier than professional stand-up comedians. I mean, imagine the scene. Osman is sitting in a completely silent room, maybe with friends or family, and suddenly he hears a joke delivered by an entity from a parallel dimension.
And he would just bust out laughing out of nowhere.
Yes, everyone would look at him like he had lost his mind, and he'd just have to wave them off and say, "Oh, sorry, I just thought of something funny."
It is a brilliant, almost absurd juxtaposition. I mean, we take spirituality so incredibly seriously.
Too seriously sometimes.
We associate enlightenment with solemnity, with strict rules and stern faces. But why wouldn't higher frequencies or parallel entities have a sense of humor? If the universe is infinite, it stands to reason that humor is part of the architecture.
That's a great point. But let's be real. If you start hearing voices in your head that no one else can hear, your first thought probably isn't, wow, the universe has a great sense of humor.
Oh, definitely not.
Your first thought is, I am losing my mind. And Osman had that exact, very grounded, very human fear. He was terrified. He asked himself, am I going insane? Is this the onset of schizophrenia?
Which is the most rational, healthy response you could possibly hope for in that situation. It shows that his critical thinking was still entirely intact despite what he was experiencing.
So how did he reconcile it? If you are hearing voices, how do you convince yourself you aren't schizophrenic?
This is where his scientific, systematic approach to yoga truly saved him.
Okay, tell me more.
What's fascinating here is how he tested his own sanity. He didn't just blindly accept the voices as divine, but he also didn't panic and check himself into a hospital.
Right?
He relied on his deep, decades-long study of the biological and psychological mechanics of yoga science. He knew intellectually and scientifically that advanced pranayama, which is yogic breathwork, acts as an anchor for the nervous system.
Let's unpack that, because breathwork has become a massive buzzword lately, but we need to understand the actual mechanics of why breathing would prevent psychosis. How does that actually work?
Let's look at the biology of it. When a person experiences a psychotic break or schizophrenia, there's often a profound loss of interoception.
Interoception.
Yeah, it's the brain's ability to accurately perceive the internal state of the body. The brain's reality testing mechanisms fracture, and it can no longer distinguish between an internal thought and external sensory input.
The tether to reality just snaps.
Exactly. The nervous system goes into a state of chaotic dysregulation. Now look at pranayama. Advanced yogic breathwork is the ultimate practice of interoception.
Because you're hyper-focused on the physical act of breathing.
Precisely. By deliberately, consciously controlling the breath for hours on end, you are directly manipulating the vagus nerve. You are forcing the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest system, to stay dominant.
So you are literally sending a mechanical, biological signal to your brain every few seconds that says, we are safe, we are grounded, we are in this physical body.
Exactly. You are building an unbreakable neurological tether. So Osman concluded that it is highly unlikely, almost biologically impossible, for someone who has rigorously trained their nervous system with advanced pranayama to suddenly suffer a true schizophrenic break.
Oh.
The breathwork ensures the brain doesn't panic and fracture, even when the auditory cortex is receiving bizarre, inexplicable input from, as he describes it, parallel universes.
That is wild. The breathing literally keeps your brain glued together while you listen to interdimensional stand-up comedy.
It really does.
It's like having a safety harness on while you're walking a tightrope across the Grand Canyon. The wind is howling, it's terrifying, but the harness physically holds you to the wire.
That's the perfect analogy. The breath is the bridge between the physical and the subtle. But we have to acknowledge that even with the breath keeping him sane, the experience wasn't pleasant for him.
No, it wasn't, because it wasn't just a fun comedy club that he could visit when he felt like it. It was constant.
Yeah, incessant noise.
And this brings us to a critical, incredibly important lesson on spiritual boundaries and the dangers of forced awakenings.
Because eventually, it became deeply disturbing for him.
Right. Osman realized he didn't know how to stop the voices. He had opened a door, and he couldn't figure out how to close it.
Which is terrifying.
Very. He eventually managed to shut the voices down purely through a strong, desperate thought. Just an intense, focused force of will. He basically screamed mentally, I want this to stop.
And it did.
It did. And to this day, he absolutely refuses to open that door again.
This is a profound testament to the power of human will. The same focused mind that opened the channel was able to slam it shut. But he uses this terrifying experience to issue a very stark, very serious warning to you listening.
Yes, he explicitly warns against the online psychic classes, or the so-called magic teachers you find on TikTok or wherever, who promise to instantly awaken a student's third eye, or grant them clairvoyance overnight.
Right, the fast track to enlightenment.
He calls it going cold turkey into the deep end.
And this raises a vital question about the ethics of spiritual teaching.
Because we live in a culture that is obsessed with life hacks.
Yeah.
We want the shortcut for everything.
Oh, absolutely.
We want the instant psychic upgrade. We want the app that downloads enlightenment into our brains while we sleep without putting in the decades of grounding work that someone like Osman actually did.
It's incredibly dangerous. Think about what we just discussed regarding the nervous system. If a teacher somehow forcefully opens a student's perception to these subtle realms, if they rip the third eye open, but that student hasn't spent years doing the pranayama, building that neurological tether, what happens?
They don't have the safety harness.
Exactly. They get flooded with sensory and energetic input that their psychological infrastructure simply cannot handle.
It just collapses.
The devastation of an unearned sensory breakthrough can be catastrophic. It can lead to severe anxiety, dissociation, and even psychosis, precisely because they lack the physical grounding to process the experience.
It's like giving the keys to a Formula One race car to someone who just got their learner's permit, putting a brick on the gas pedal and saying, good luck.
Yes.
It's not a gift, it's a disaster waiting to happen.
Which is why Osman's humility in this area is so striking. I mean, despite his unquestionable mastery and his 50 years of experience, he openly admits that he is not the right person to teach clairaudience.
He just won't do it.
He knows how difficult it is to manage, and he refuses to be responsible for pushing someone into the deep end before they are ready.
Instead, he advocates for a much safer path. He teaches that intuition and subtle perception must be activated incrementally, strictly in accordance with what the student is psychologically and physiologically ready to handle. You build the foundation first, always.
It's a message of profound responsibility.
So Osman chose to shut down his extrasensory hearing of the spirit world. He drew a hard boundary. He closed the door on the unseen voices.
Right.
But then, in a twist of fate that is just incredible, the physical world shut down his visual sight.
This brings us to the most recent and perhaps the most profound chapter of his life.
Yeah. According to his own account, since May 2023, Osman has been 100% permanently blind.
Totally gone.
He cannot see color. He cannot see shape. He cannot see light. The visual world is entirely gone. In his videos, he notes that he could only describe things like color and light because he had normal eyesight for most of his life before then.
It is a profound loss. I mean, a truly life-altering change. But what is truly staggering is how he interprets this reality.
Yeah, he doesn't view it as a tragedy.
Not at all. In fact, he makes one of the most provocative claims in the entire source material.
He claims that as a completely blind man, he actually sees more than sighted people.
He completely flips the entire concept of disability on its head.
He literally calls sightedness a curse.
Wow.
Yeah. He argues that sighted people are suffering from a massive, constant state of information overload. He uses this great phrase. He says, sighted people are jacks of all trades, masters of none when it comes to sensory input.
And if we look at the neurology of vision, he is absolutely right. A massive portion of the human brain is dedicated entirely to processing visual information. We are incredibly visually dominant creatures.
Think about it from a practical standpoint. Imagine you were having a conversation with someone. Sighted people think they're listening, but they really aren't. While the other person is talking, you are looking at what they're wearing. You are analyzing their facial expressions. You are distracted by the painting on the wall behind them, or, the car driving past the window.
Or checking your reflection in a mirror.
Exactly. Your peripheral vision is picking up your phone, lighting up on the table.
It's a complete sensory traffic jam. The brain is attempting to process millions of bits of visual data every single second. And because attention is a finite resource, that massive visual processing severely dilutes the attention we can actually give to the auditory signal.
We are hearing the words, but we are completely missing the music.
That's a great way to put it.
But Osman, because he is blind, he only receives the audible message. His focus isn't split 1,000 different ways. It is laser sharp. He picks up on every single nuance. He hears the exact tone. He measures the length of a pause.
He is experiencing the auditory world in high definition without any visual static blurring the signal.
He actually issues a warning to the listener, and I found this so fascinating. He says, when you speak to a blind person, you need to be incredibly careful.
Why is that?
Because they can practically read your mind. They can detect the slightest miss or tremor in your intonation, a micro-hesitation that a sighted person completely glosses over because they are distracted by your smile.
What's fascinating here is the well-documented phenomenon of sensory compensation.
Right, I heard of that.
Yeah, when the brain loses one sensory input, neuroplasticity allows it to reallocate those neural resources to enhance the remaining senses. The auditory cortex literally expands its processing power.
So his brain is physically rewiring to hear better.
Yes, but with Osman, we have to layer his 50 years of intense meditation and telepathic bioenergy practice on top of that physical rewiring.
Oh man, that's a powerful combination.
By losing the superficial layers of reality, the colors, the shapes, the physical light, he gained unimpeded access to the deeper, richer subtext of human interaction.
It's not just acute physical hearing, it's an energetic diagnosis through sound.
Exactly. A sighted person might be fooled by a fake smile and a polite nod
We fall for that all the time.
all the time. But Osman cannot be distracted by the visual lie. He hears the tension in the vocal cords, he hears the erratic breathing pattern, he hears the exact energetic state of the person speaking to him.
It totally reframes how we think about loss. He is describing his permanent blindness almost as an evolutionary advantage for a healer.
Which is incredible.
The physical senses, particularly sight, were acting as a distractor from the inner truth. The visual distractor was forcibly removed, and it upgraded his remaining faculties to a master level.
Which perfectly aligns with his overarching mission. Remember, his goal is to help people, to save lives, utilizing these quantum entanglement principles for terminal illnesses.
Right.
If visual noise was distracting his telepathic bioenergy work, blindness honed it to a razor's edge. His high treatment fees for his premium services reflect this exceptional focused ability to heal seriously ill patients. It requires an immense amount of his personal, refined energy.
But again, the beautiful part of this is the accessibility of the core knowledge. He doesn't gatekeep the philosophy.
No, he doesn't.
All his relevant teachings, the methodologies, the insights into meditation, and the silent mind, they are entirely free. You only pay for the premium energy healing service or the one-on-one consultations. Everything else is on YouTube or his podcast, The Blind Muslim Yogi.
He is actively out there trying to revive an ancient science for modern benefit. He truly believes these tools can improve health, bring peace, fix relationships, and even stabilize finances by bringing the mind into a state of clear, powerful focus.
If we synthesize this entire arc, it is truly staggering to look at where we started and where we ended up.
It really is quite a journey.
We began with this grounded, practical look at the disciplined silence required to simply hear the thoughts of the person sitting next to you. The realization that to understand someone else, you first have to quiet the noise in your own head.
Then we escalated into the extreme, analyzing the 18-hour days of grueling meditation. We explored the immense biological toll of pushing a 19-year-old nervous system into samadhi.
Frying the toaster.
Frying the toaster. And the terrifying, hilarious reality of paring the veil off parallel dimensions, only to find entities doing stand-up comedy.
We looked deeply at the absolute necessity of boundaries, the danger of forced, cold turkey awakenings, and the incredible biological grounding power of the breath pranayama as the ultimate safety harness for the mind.
And we arrived at this profound, challenging realization that losing physical sight, becoming completely, permanently blind, might actually be the ultimate cure for our modern sensory overload.
It stripped away the illusions of the visual world and allowed Osman to finally truly listen.
It really forces you to take a hard look at your own life, doesn't it? It forces you to evaluate your own sensory diet.
That's a great term, sensory diet.
How much visual garbage are we consuming every single day?
It is a critical question. Are we so addicted to screens, to superficial expressions, to the shape and color and constant flash of things that we've entirely forgotten how to truly listen to the people sitting right in front of us?
We are absolutely drowning in sight, but we are starving for real perception.
So, we want to leave you with a lingering question to chew on, something to think about the next time you sit in silence. Imagine that right now, a teacher approached you and offered to instantly flip a switch in your mind.
Just a boom, instantly.
They promised to give you full access to hear the unseen parallel worlds around you. They promise you will be able to hear the thoughts of everyone in the room. But they warn you that you might never be able to turn the noise off, and your nervous system might shatter under the weight of it.
That's a heavy price.
Would you take the shortcut? Would you take the risk of opening a door you can't close? Or is mastering the absolute pin-drop quiet of your own mind, putting in the slow daily work to sit with yourself in silence, the real superpower we should all be chasing?